Hi, everybody, and welcome to today's Biznology Digital Marketing webinar. My name is Frank Reed. I'm one of the bloggers here at Biznology. I'm also the managing editor for Marketing Pilgrim blog. We're currently number 10 on the Ad Age Power 150. Also director of business development for the Edgeworks Group, which is an integrated design, development, and online marketing agency based in Irvine, California. Today, though, you'll be hearing from Glenn Gaudette. Glenn is the president and founder of GaggleAMP, and who will present engaging employees to share corporate social media. But before we get started, we do need to recognize our sponsors, and we're very grateful for our sponsors. We have Barn Raisers, a digital marketing and social media solutions company that builds strong brands using community and the proven principles of relationship marketing. We have Brick Marketing, a full-service SEO solutions company that increases website visitors. And our presenter today, GaggleAMP, the leading social media amplification solution that empowers employee, partner, and reseller engagement. Marketing Pilgrim, I've already mentioned, internet and social media marketing news blog. We cut through the bull so you don't have to. And lastly, we have Unison, the unagency, your secret weapon in the noisy world of 21st century brand communications. So now as we wait for more attendees to join, let me just review the format of our webinars. Our Biznology webinars last just about 30 minutes, so you can easily fit them into your busy schedule. We record each webinar, and we'll email you that link later this week. During our speaker's presentation, you can go to your GoToWebinar controls to ask a question. We encourage you to do this, please. That orange arrow opens and closes your webinar controls. If you have a question, simply type it into the box labeled Questions at any time during the event and press the Send button. I'll see that, and I'll select a few questions at the end of the webinar and pose them to Glenn. So while we're waiting for the last few attendees to get to us here, I'd like to remind you that the Biznology newsletter and blog are available for free at biznology.com. So if you're not already a subscriber, we hope that you'll sign up now. Okay, so thanks again to all of you for spending the next 30 minutes with us. We know how valuable your time is, so let's introduce today's speaker. Glenn Gaudette is the president and founder of GaggleAMP. And Glenn brings over 20 years of comprehensive experience in both strategic and product marketing for technology and media companies, ranging from startups to companies doing $1 billion in sales. He's also the author of Connection, Community, and Conversation, Making Social Media Work for Business. So if you've ever struggled with how to get your employees to engage in social media, this is the webinar for you. So Glenn, take it away.
Thank you, Frank. Appreciate it. And Eileen, can we get the poll out there? Wonderful. So for those of you who can see the poll, hopefully you can right now, if you just take a moment to put in how you might be engaging your employees, if you are, with regard to sharing on social media, and then we're going to come back to that and look at some of the results. So like it or not, people are talking about your company. It's a reality. It's something that is happening already, whether you're doing anything about it or not, whether you're helping it or whether you're just reacting to it. So, interesting article that came out of the New York Times. This is back in January 21st. As Facebook and Twitter becomes as central to workplace conversation as the company cafeteria, federal regulators are ordering employees to scale back policies that limit what workers can say online. What does that mean? It means the law is actually going against companies from trying to, shall we say, monitor and make some changes to what employees are saying. So if an employee wants to say something about your company, they're going to say it without impunity. And for those people who are still wondering if social media is here to stay, here's some really interesting numbers. If we go back to the Olympics that took place in Beijing in 2008, and we look at some of the numbers there, and we look at them from 2012, we're seeing amazing growth in a lot of different areas. Everything from Twitter accounts to Facebook accounts. Look at tweets per day, up 12,000%. Tablets didn't even exist back in 2008, and now in 2012, there's almost 50 million tablets out there. And these are things that should really give you a sense of the power of social media in terms of whether or not it's here to stay, and it is. We've got some information on the poll here, so can we share the poll results, Eileen, just so people can see it? So it looks like that there's split. You know, if people are engaging their employees, they're doing it mostly through email. A few people are doing others, and 33% are not currently engaged. So really what I want to talk about today is how to be proactive around social media. Because at the end of the day, you want to get ahead of social media. So the last thing you want to do is get squashed by it. And the reality is, if you're in a scenario in which you're dealing with social media and you're just reactive to social media, you're in a very tough situation. So how do you get ahead of it? Well, it's really simple. It's something you don't want to do alone. Now, if you are managing social media for your company, you've got a tremendous amount of assets out there. And those assets really come in the form of stakeholders. So one of the things that you're going to want to think about is, how do you engage stakeholders? And who are these stakeholders? So everyone thinks of fans, right? So particularly in a B2C scenario, people think of, oh, my fan base. Well, if you look at, you know, some of the very popular folks out there on Twitter, in fact, it was back in January where Justin Bieber actually surpassed Lady Gaga as the #1 Twitter person out there. But if you look at some of the numbers, even the power of Justin Bieber, look at the retweets as a percentage, very small. Favorites as a percentage, very small, right? So now imagine this from the point of view of your fans, you know? And who are your fans? Are your fans, how many fans do you have following your corporate Twitter account? I'm guessing it's not 33 million. Might be in the thousands, might be in the hundreds. Regardless, look at the results here at somebody that is probably on the top of the heap when it comes to Twitter power. The results are not impressive. Customers. Customers are another stakeholder group. And they're great. They're people that really like your product, in theory, right? Because they spend some money on it. So if you look at some of the things that have been done around that, Dropbox has a really good example. They really went viral on social media because what they were able to do is they were able to incent people to share news about their product, news about their company via social media in return for free storage space. So you could start with a free Dropbox space that allocated a certain amount of space for you, and then by sharing messages, you would actually earn larger space. Very successful. Really drove that company's early introduction phases. Now, resellers. They're a great partner for you because as a stakeholder, they want to see you be successful, right? They're selling your product. They want that to be successful. So if we look at what a CA company or a CA product, Computer Associates, if you look at their ArcServe product, what they're really using is they're using social media out there to really help their resellers talk about the ArcServe product. And by making social media available to those resellers now have more than just the traditional approach, which is, you know, you give away you give away white papers, you give away the product slicks around your different products. Well, think about now packaging up social media so that that reseller has a very easy way to take your social media content and now populate their own social media accounts. So by driving industry knowledge and product information and hand delivering it virtually to your resellers, you enable them now to have great content that they're going to distribute for you. Employees, and that's what we're going to be focusing a lot on today, which is really tying into your employees, because at the end of the day, your employees are probably your largest and your most powerful stakeholder group in terms of their focus and their affinity level for you. So if we look at what IBM is doing, IBM is leveraging their employees to really drive thought leadership. So you can look at some of the messages here that IBM puts out around this. And really what it's about is tapping into those people who already have a high affinity and frankly a stake in the success of the company to share great social media content on their LinkedIn, on their Twitter, on their Facebook. So let me give you a case study. This is a company called XO Communications. They're a B2B broadband supplier. So they actually used GaggleAMP, and I'm just going to give you this example because I think it really shows the power of engagement when it comes to your own employees. So what they did is they actually put together what we call a gaggle, which is they put 250 people on the platform. And it's not, this isn't a story about the platform. This is a story about the content and getting the content out there. So they put 250 people together, and what they did is they used GaggleAMP to distribute this content to those 250 people. And those 250 people put the content, in many cases automatically, directly onto their LinkedIn status. Now, I want you to think about this for a second. When was the last time you updated your LinkedIn status? And you're a social media professional, so you probably do it more than most. But now, think about the rest of the people in your company. Chances are they probably have a LinkedIn profile, but they're probably not updating that status all that often. Well, within a week of just providing content and having the salespeople put this content out there, they got additional leads in via the LinkedIn status updates, which led to an additional $10,000 a month in business, and that's recurring revenue for them. So they saw the power in this right away, which is, again, taking content that the company is already spending time, already spending money on, and instead of just letting it hang out there on just the XO Communications social accounts, now they're tapping into, in this case, 250 salespeople to also share that. And so you really amplify the reach of that content. Because even if you have, let's say, 1,000 followers, those 1,000 followers are not going to see every message you put out there, regardless of the platform you're putting it out on. So by having, in this case, 250 people sharing that content, you actually increase the reach, and as a result, you increase the likelihood of more people seeing that great content. So it's not a scenario in which you're developing content and then it withers on the vine. So the approach that XO follows, which is, I think, really worth mentioning here, is they follow a post strategy of 9 industry posts to 1 XO-related post. So think about that. So they put out 9 industry posts and 1 XO-related post, and they still drove additional leads in. Now, why do they do that? Well, they do that because what it does, it builds influence and credibility for those people sharing that content. Because it's not just all about trying to pitch a company's product, but it's trying to put value-add content out there that people are going to be interested in. And as a result, sharing has actually increased their own blog traffic by 10%, and the visitors coming through the shared content that came through GaggleAMP actually have a 30% higher visit time on that blog. So it's pretty powerful. And what they report is that the cost per lead from sharing is significantly lower than the other traffic driving vehicles they use. Again, think about that. Think about all of your lead gen activity. Now think about what you're doing with social media. And think about social media now as an opportunity to drive lead generation. So we talked about these different groups of stakeholders. And the reality is they have different levels of affinity. So really what you want to think about is, where are my groups that have the highest level of affinity, right? And it's usually people you already know. It's usually those people that have an existing relationship with you. It's not the people who are out there that you don't know yet. It's not your prospects, right? Because they're still your prospects. But it's those people, it's your employees, your partners, your resellers and customers that have that high level of affinity. And those are the groups that you want to start tapping into, and you want to tap into first. And we recommend that you start with your employees. It's a natural made group for you to tap into to share that content. So here's some interesting data. And this is worth spending a little bit of time on, because most people think that what I need to do is go out and get more followers, whether that be on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, right? Well, we actually did research around this. And we found that the impact associated with getting 100 more followers is far less than just getting one person to share that content. So if you really want to have impact, it's not about going out there and getting more followers for your corporate accounts. It's really about going out there and getting people to share your content. It will always be the scenario that by having more people share your content, you're not only expanding the reach of that message, but you're also extending the shelf life of that message. Because if people are sharing it over a period of time, keep in mind that when you post a message to your corporate Twitter account, that has a shelf life of usually less than an hour. Now when you have people share that over a period of time, there's many more opportunities for that content to be consumed. And that's important. So I do want to talk about the role of privacy, because privacy is something that you want to think about and incorporate and embrace, right? Because stakeholders want to help, but they're not interested in handing over the keys of their social accounts. And they don't want a scenario in which they think that you have their social accounts. Who wants to hand over their Facebook page? Who wants to hand over their Twitter account to somebody else? Who wants to hand over LinkedIn to somebody else? The reality is, think about it from the point of view of what you're doing is you're going to make it easy for them to share, but you're not taking over their social accounts. And don't ask them to do that. So as a result of that, there's a privacy component, and you really want to track the aggregate results rather than in individuals. Again, if Johnny works for your company, Johnny doesn't want to know that all of a sudden you come to him and say, hey, Johnny, how come you didn't share this message? That's not what this is all about. So having opt-in and having that comfort level of somebody wanting to share is really important for your success, because you're not going to make anyone do anything when it comes to their personal social accounts. So ROI and reporting. Some of the things that you want to think about. So when you're reporting on your activity from a social media, think about these kind of scenarios. First of all, you're out there and you're increasing reach. So you're getting great content out there, and there's a message reach component to that. But there's also a click-through component to that. Think about now putting that in the context to which your executives already understand, which is advertising. So message reach, you could look at message reach from the point of view of, if I was going to generate this amount of message reach via advertising, that would be a CPM, or a cost per 1,000 approach. You know, figure out how much you're spending on that, or how much the advertising folks are spending on that. Same thing with click-throughs. How many clicks took place? You know, how much traffic did you drive, right? That's an equivalent to CPC, or cost per click. These numbers are already out there. You're probably already spending money on it. If you are not, then somebody in your organization probably is. So you can find out what that is and get an equivalency. The other thing you want to look at too is social interactions and click-throughs. You know, who's doing this? What organizations are you trying to go out and reach? And are you having social interactions with them as a result? Again, it's not always going to be the scenario in which it's just your social accounts for the company that are going to have interactions, but there might be interactions too because of your engagement with your employees. Timing. Timing is a really big issue, and this is something that you want to look at, and this is something that you want to track, because there is a cause and effect. If you are always posting messages at 9 a.m. on Mondays, that will bias the results. So when you're thinking about timing, what you want to do is you want to try different timing scenarios. You want to try different days, different hours of the days, and you want to make sure that you have tools in place that allow you to see what the impact of that timing is. So really what we're trying to do here is we're really taking this situation in which traditionally people think about as asking for a favor. Could you share my content? And what I want you to think about is transforming that into creating content as a service. So if you take content and you take really good content and make it available for people, you pre-package it, and you make it just so darn easy for them to share, you're not asking for favors anymore. You're creating content as a service. And as a result of them getting this content and starting to share more great content, guess what? They get more followers. They get more influence in their own social media. So it's really a win-win. And that's what we're trying to accomplish here. So whenever you're asking people to share content, remember, content quality counts. So, got some takeaways here. One is, don't try to buy stakeholder engagement, right? The whole idea here is to make it easy and fun for them. Whether you use a GaggleAMP or whether you go out and try to approach it yourself, think about the fun factor. Think about the easy factor. If you're sending an email out to people and asking them to cut and paste into certain things, that's not making it easy for them. Okay? I talked about this earlier, message quality. You know, if you're a bank and you're putting out a message for the third day in a row that your interest rates have changed, guess what? People are not going to want to share that message. So think about providing quality messages that make people look good by the fact that they're sharing them, right? And you're providing great content because that's kind of what your job is, right? In the marketing department, we create content. We create great content. So let's take that content, package it up, and make it really easy for people to share. But the quality of that content will always be something that's going to have impact for you. And the third thing is, remember that another person sharing your message is far more powerful than just adding another 100 followers. So don't think about trying to just get large amounts of people to be following your Twitter account. Think about it from the perspective that you're trying to get large amounts of people to share your content. So here's my contact information. We'll certainly, I want to hand it over to Frank in a second here, but I do want to tell you something. We do have a free, it's at the bottom of the page here, a free 2-week trial of GaggleAMP. It's GaggleAMP.com/webinar04. If you go there, you'll get a free trial to GaggleAMP, completely unlimited. It's for 2 weeks. It will allow you to go out and engage your stakeholders, whether that be your employees, partners, customers, and try it out. Get some data. See whether or not people are interested in sharing your content. But remember, it's all about the quality of the content and turning this from an ask into creating content as a service. At this point, I will turn it over to Frank.
All right, thanks, Glenn. I'm sure our attendees have a much stronger idea now how to get their employees engaged in social media, but as it always happens with our webinars, we didn't answer every question. I've got a few good questions teed up for you. I'd like to remind the audience that it's not too late to ask your own questions, so type it into the question box when you go to your GoToWebinar controls. Before we get to that first question, though, we need to thank our sponsors again. We have Barn Raisers, a digital marketing and social media solutions company that builds brands using community and the proven principles of relationship marketing. Brick Marketing, full-service SEO solutions company that increases website visitors. Our presentation partner today, GaggleAMP, the leading social media amplification solution that empowers employees, partner, and reseller engagement. Marketing Pilgrim, the internet and social media marketing news blog. And Unison, the unagency, your secret weapon in the noisy world of 21st century brand communications. Okay, now on to your questions. This one's a little lengthy, Glenn, but let me just read through it. My coworkers say they don't want to spam their friends and contacts by sharing info and news from our company/organization's website, or share from Facebook updates, etc. I see that as a problem. Personally, it sounds like they're not proud of what they do or who they work with. I work with a national standardization body, so it's kind of a specialized area. But that shouldn't be a problem, I think, though. So how do we get them to share?
It's a great question. And the first thing that I would say is don't set your expectations that you will get 100% of your employees to share. There's going to be some people, no matter what you do or say, they're not going to want to share the content. Don't demonize them for it, right? So allow them to have that position. But what's going to happen is those people around them who do start sharing content will start talking about how easy it is, how many more followers they're getting. That kind of peer influence will help convert some of the people who were previously unconvertible. That being said, you want to be careful in terms of your positioning of asking people to share content. Again, whether you use a system like GaggleAMP or whether you're going out with emails or whatever you're using to notify people, you want to turn around and don't put them in a place where they feel like there's some guilt associated with sharing. You want to make the sharing of the content a real value add to them. So part of the thing that you want to do is help educate them and say that, have them really understand what spam is. By putting some content out on their LinkedIn, by putting some content out on their Facebook or putting content out on their Twitter, you're putting out information, good information about the company. If they're proud about the organization that they work for and they want to share that with friends, that's a good thing. And frankly, their friends probably want to learn more about what their company does, because chances are they don't know what they do with their company, and they don't know what that company does in the marketplace. And the reality is they're not going to share every single message, right? So you want to make sure that they have the option to say, you know what, this is information I don't want to share on Facebook, but you know what, I'm happy to share that on LinkedIn. So you want to give them options. So I hope that answers the question.
Okay, great. We've got another one here, Glenn, for you. This question from one of our viewers here. Sounded as though you were saying that IBM was a good example of a company that was doing it right and that they were providing wording and language, etc. Then you mentioned toward the end that you should keep it simple and fun and let employees do what they want and are comfortable with. Did I misunderstand the IBM example or takeaways?
When I said that companies should do what they want, I'm not sure if I said that the employees should do what they want and have fun with it. I do believe that the employees should have fun. But the thing is, you want to give them content that allows them to make choices, right? The biggest challenge that most people have, I mean, again, we're talking about people who are not social media professionals in general, yet they still have social media accounts. The challenge that they have most of the time is they don't know what to say. They don't know what to write on their Twitter stream. They don't know what to say in Facebook or LinkedIn. And yeah, they might post personal pictures. That's great. That's part of what social media is all about. But if you can give them prepackaged content that they can pick and choose from now, then that's what makes it powerful for them. So they can pick and choose the content that resonates with them and resonates with what their perceived thought process is around their followers. So maybe they want a particular view that their followers should have about them and their company. You're providing them great content around that.
Yeah, to that point, it's kind of interesting. I saw a TED Talk recently where what guy was saying is there was just way too many options out there. So by giving your employees a few options, you're saying, Glenn, that they have a much more likelihood of saying something because they have something that they can say rather than trying to create it on the fly. Okay.
That's correct. That's correct. And the biggest challenge there, Frank, is that they won't create things on the fly, right? Because they don't even know where to begin. Remember, you know, when you're tapping into employees, they work in all sorts of different departments. They're not all marketing folks that are trained in creating great content. Even those of us who are trained in creating great content, we sometimes scratch our head in terms of what do we want to tweet about today. So if we're having this kind of internal dialogue, imagine the non-professional, non-marketing person now trying to figure out what they should be saying about your company. So make it easy for them. Prepackage it.
And up to us to actually just ride that fine line without telling them what to do and still giving them the choice that they're making.
Exactly right. And that's the key. I think the choice is really important here. You're not going to force anybody to do anything. And you don't want to, because you want it to be authentic. You want them to agree that that's great content that they should share.
And that goes to our first question about being concerned about that people aren't sharing about the company and maybe they're not proud of the company. So if you give them something to be proud of, there's a bit more likelihood they're going to put it out there for you.
Exactly right.
Well, fantastic. We're running a little bit over today because we had a couple of really good questions. So we want to be respectful of folks' time. And we generally here at our Biznology webinars like to wrap up by this time. So I want to first thank Glenn, for everything that he put out there today. Great information and a lot of things for us to think about. And thank you, audience, for your participation and your questions. They were excellent. If you had any questions that you didn't have time to answer or we didn't get to, you can email your questions to Eileen. It's EILEEN at MikeMoranGroup.com, and she'll be sure to get them to Glenn for the answer. Later this week, we'll send you a link to the recording of this webinar to listen to again and to share with others. We'd also like to alert you to 2 upcoming Biznology webinars. Tomorrow, that's tomorrow, at 3 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time, we'll have a special 1-hour webinar, How to Use Web Analytics and Search Marketing for Better Decision-Making, with Rob Peterson, Tim Peter, and Mike Moran. In our April webinar, which is Attack of the Customers, Why Critics Assault Brands Online, and How to Avoid Becoming a Victim, is scheduled for 11 a.m. U.S. Eastern Time on April 16th. So that's it for today. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Glenn, and we hope that you have a great day, and we look forward to seeing you tomorrow and also on April 16th for our next webinars.
Thanks for having me.